Rev up your engines! All right, here we have a classic 1980 Corvette. I just got it a few months ago. I'm going to show you what to look out for if you're thinking about buying one. Now, unlike lots of modern car buying, you bring cash when you buy one of these. You pay $10,000 cash for this. People have deals, they want the cash. Guy wanted to get a boat or something. Hey, this is what you bring. Cash. And here's what you're going to look out for first. Now, this is a 1980 Corvette. Jimmy Carter was president then. And interestingly enough, check it out. This car came from Georgia, just like Jimmy. Yes. They have fiberglass bodies. You think, oh, it's not going to rust. Well, guess what? They got steel frames and a lot of steel parts, and they can rust like mad, and I often do. You want to look under. You want to check the frame. And this thing, man, it's all solid. If it's rusted, you run away from one of these vets. It is a Jimmy Carter Chevy after all. It lived in Georgia, so it doesn't have rust. You gotta look out for rust. If they're rusted, run away. Yeah, the fiberglass isn't gonna rust, but it's sitting on top of steel. You wanna make sure that steel's not rotten. A lot of them are rust buckets, run away. Realize you can customize these things to the end of the world. He put the side pipes on. I think it really gives them a look, gives them a nice sound. You can do it yourself. You know, it's not all that bad. It's the main reason people buy these Vettes is under the hood, the engine. This is a stock V8. He's whining he doesn't have enough horsepower. Of course, he's thinking about putting a 427 in. You can put a 427 in. It'll bolt in. There's a lot of modifications you can do if you want. Parts are readily available. In his case, if he puts a 427, he's going to keep the original motor, put it to the side. So if he sells it later on, he can say, I got the original motor too, if you want that. This all generally, you don't have to worry about anti-pollution equipment. They're grandfathered in, so you don't have to worry about hooking up your air pump. And if you live in a place like Tennessee, you don't have to worry about making noise with the side pipes. You can see we're going to start it up. It really isn't all that bad. Got that cool V8 rumble. We're gonna pull the T-tops off now. Very easy to do. I like T-tops better than a convertible. You got a nice structure, you don't get as much wind, but you're wide open. You get the best of both worlds. If you've ever dealt with a convertible, a lot of people never own a convertible, they think, oh, I always wanted to get a convertible. You hear the noise because they're thin. 18-wheeler come up in the back, you think it's gonna run you over. They dry out, they rot. Then you gotta replace the very expensive ones. And in most of them, the back, you got no viewing when the top's up. This has nice glass. And check it out next to my shed. You just have to wax those. They're not going to wear out like a cheap old rag top. Now, there's one big advantage of buying a Corvette. Guys that buy them generally tend to like them. They take care of them. And they generally don't put a whole bunch of miles on them. And you can get a decent one at a decent price that's got tons of life. Parts are readily available, especially the 350 V8s. I mean, they're just a dime a dozen, those engines. And the older ones like these have real appeal for two reasons. One, they're a lot easier to work on. This one's got the stock 4-barrel Rochester on it. Simple distributor system. He just put a new distributor on it. All that stuff's readily available. And let's say you want to up the ante. You can get a Holley conversion kit that bolts where the carburetor is. It turns it into a fully programmable fuel injection system. I just stuck one on my grandson's Camaro. Hey, it works great. You can play with it to your heart's content. If you want to go fuel injected, the problem is if you buy one that's 20 years old or so and it's fuel injected, those electronics can get haywire. They're hellacious things to work on. But if you put a brand new Holley one on, hey, technology's changed a lot in the last 2-3 decades. You get a modern system like that, that's bolt on. You don't have to change the intake and all that crap, it bolts on. That's the advantage when you get something like a GM V8, especially these old ones. There's lots of parts, lots of stuff available that you can put on if you want to or if you don't want to. Or you might say, oh, it runs good enough, and then if it starts running bad, then put the system on. But true drivers love a big V8 engine hooked up to rear wheel drive. So let's take it for a spin. If you do any work yourself, hey, it's got the great flip hood. Lots of working room. You're not gonna whack your head on the hood because it's not sitting low. It's way up in the air in the front. Nothing like the open air in a Corvette. And here we go. Like I said, I like the T-tops. You get the convertible experience, but you're not insanely buffeted. and you feel wide open. I mean, there's the clouds. Now, don't expect to put anybody in the back seat, but that's why LBJ's daughter got one of these, so the security guy couldn't ride in the back. The secret security guy had to follow him in the car, couldn't be in their car. There's only 2 seats for her and her boyfriend. The one thing about these babies is they handle. They're like gigantic go-karts. Now, of course, if you know anything about Corvettes, they don't have a trunk. And here's a real story from my grandfather. One of my cousins was a young guy, bought a brand new Corvette. He says, I'm gonna take it on vacation, right? So my grandfather said, where are you gonna put your luggage? And the guy said, I'm gonna put it in the trunk. Then he found out it didn't have a trunk. He actually sold the car and gave up on it. Do a little research, you know, if you're gonna do something that dumb. Now check it out. This thing still has the original wheels on it. Like I say, people collect these things. They're their toys. They take care of them. You can find a good one. Now, don't be like a crow and collect shiny objects without thinking about it. This guy looked at like 9 of these before he bought this one. Don't buy the first thing you see. Take your time. You can find something like this if you look around. There's so many of them. Do what you want. Now, this came with an automatic transmission. It's not the original one. It's now a 4-speed. But don't poo-poo a deal if you say, I only want this or that. All the parts are interchangeable, so you can buy one that maybe doesn't have the engine you want or the transmission you want. You can always swap them out. The main thing is you make sure the frame is solid and not rotten. That's the main reason the guy bought this car. Because it might be in Massachusetts now, but originally it came from Georgia. I've met a lot of people around here in Massachusetts. They get Georgia cars, they get Florida cars. Smart move. You don't want to buy one that stayed, say, in Massachusetts its whole life, unless the owners were total fanatics. Because a lot of these guys, they won't drive them in the winter. They park them in the garage, let them sit. If it's one of those, that's perfectly fine. Because when you think about it, for $10,000, are you going to get a nice toy like this? What are you going to get? You're not even going to get a halfway decent Toyota Corolla used for that kind of money. And it's an old car. This guy's only in his early 20s. Just cost him $700 a year insurance. You get classic cars, the insurance is much cheaper. I've got customers that are just driving regular cars in their 20s. Some of these guys are paying $500 a month. Not $700 a year. Check it out in your area. You might find the insurance for these things is a lot cheaper than you might think, being a classic car. Plus, if you live in an area where a classic car doesn't need emissions inspecting, you don't have to deal with that crap every year. You know what an annoyance that is. I lived in Houston long enough to realize what an annoyance. A lot of guys would deliberately buy cars that were over 25 years old just so they didn't have to deal with that crap. Age can have some benefits. Look at me, I'm 68. I don't know if you can get parts from me, but you can certainly get parts of these things because they're so popular. So if you're looking at a classic car like that, make sure it's one like this. The parts are readily available. You can do whatever you want, have fun, maybe keep it stock, maybe do whatever you want, but you can do it relatively inexpensively if you use your head and search for a good one. So for 10 grand, I'll say, this guy got one heck of a deal. He put his time in, he's got a nice car he can have a lot of fun with. And after all, it is a toy. He's gonna store it away in the winter in Massachusetts. He's not gonna drive it on the road. Fun toy for 10 grand. He can keep it for years and years and years. That's his plan. But if he wanted to flip it, he could probably make money on it now, but he doesn't want to. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Z-Light Star says, my 06 Mazda 6 is a code for leak detection pump, P2402. Now, I know there's a pump, but I can't find it. What can I do to fix it? Well, unfortunately, you got a Mazda 6. The design of that stupid car is the pump is on top of the gas tank. You gotta drop the gas tank to get to the pump. Now, it is strictly a evap test system. It doesn't affect the running of the car. It'll run exactly the same whether you fix it or not. If you live somewhere where you have to get your car tested for emissions testing, you won't get it passed legally. That's it. You know, it can't pass legally, so you're going to have to get it fixed. But if you live like where I do in Clarksville, people just say, to heck with it. I'm not pulling the gas tank. Nobody inspects the cars. I don't care. But if you do want to get it fixed, you're going to have to drop that tank. You're going to have to buy that pump, which costs a small fortune, and then put it all back together again. That's how the design was. You know, they could have put it wherever they wanted, but the swine put it on top of the gas tank, so you got to drop the gas tank to get to the stupid thing. That's just how it goes these days. When they build them, they don't care about fixing. As a matter of fact, they want to make them harder to fix so they can rip you off at the dealer to repair them, because you won't be able to do it yourself because it's so much work. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.